Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian. I'm here with Allison, and this is maintaining frame number 145. It's a bloodbath out there. Where we're going to be looking at a couple of viral videos with the fairer sex doing what it do, and everyone scrambling to figure out like who to blame or
Men.
what's going on or whatever it is. Yeah, it kind of does. It always lands on men.
Yeah. It's almost like the dice are loaded.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, we're going to be going into that right now. This should be good. And before we start, though, I guess, Allison, you have some things to think.
Yeah. Well, I don't have the monthly fundraiser set up yet, so it's just the tip. So if you would like to send us a message and give us a tip, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. We get the full benefit of whatever funds you send, and you get the full benefit of sending whatever comment you send, not through YouTube's comment thresher system, which I will leave to your imagination what that is a euphemism for. So once again, feedthebadger.com/justthetip if you want to send us a message and a tip. All right, back to you, Brian. Let's get this started.
All right. So yeah, we're going to be looking at about 3 different videos. I thought I was ease us into this. And we'll just go with this one. So these I think these are all originally on TikTok. But they've made their way onto X. So I don't know I don't know who the original poster is, but the person that is sharing this or shared this on TikTok is called @TheWokeMindVirus. That's showing on the screen there. But the person who shared that video is called Concerned Citizen. And well, let's just listen to the clip. I guess this came out of PragerU originally as well. So
I found out today that somebody that I work with is a conservative, and he's somebody who's really intelligent, and he's somebody who works in climate tech as a super smart guy, somebody I would never have thought was conservative, and apparently he is. And it's surprising, and it's disgusting. But what's most surprising to me is the level of sudden hatred that I have for him. Sudden hatred for this man who I used to respect suddenly just went boop, and I hate him now.
I got something for that. I actually recently just came across I was looking for information into people being attracted to a partner that's they perceive to be more morally advanced or have a higher sense of morality, or more developed morality. And I came across this paper into how people respond to those they perceive to have a greater morality than themselves. And the response is apparently resentment, attempting to belittle the moral focus that person has, or their intent in pursuing their particular moral framework. And then the final one was distancing. So it's interesting that I think that you can see a lot of that. I think there's also a tendency to deny. Like, what we're talking about here is this woman has a particular moral framework, right? And she has discovered that a coworker buys into a different moral framework. So if she feels a sense of threat, she is going to respond in terms of resentment, in terms of distancing, and in terms of belittling his moral framework. That's what this particular article found out or conjectured in terms of a conflict between your sense of morality and somebody else's. So I think actually it was also contributed to by Haidt, Haidt.
Jonathan Haidt.
Yes. And yeah, it's interesting to watch, because when you read that paper, you're like, oh, I recognize these things. And right here, the hatred that she's expressing is probably a distancing, or attempting to emotionally distance herself from him. But still, it's a very strong emotion for somebody who feel is just not like, a pitiable sinner, I suppose. Okay, let's
well, yeah, I wanted to say, so how does she because what she appears to be experiencing here is cognitive dissonance.
Mm-hmm.
So she heard or learned that a guy she works with is conservative. She doesn't really define what that means, but for her and for a lot of people, for whatever reason, that term comes with a lot of baggage, like already assumed about someone. If you say so and so is conservative, and the way you say it, oh, he's a blah blah blah, that comes with a bunch of baggage right off the bat. There's a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of presumptions that come into it that are baked into the term. But then she says, I don't get it because he's a really smart guy that works in environmental science. So
Mm.
she believes that this person is a living contradiction because he is on one side intelligent, which apparently conservatives can't be, and in another sense, interested in climate science, which is another thing that conservatives cannot be. So, like, because of her assumptions about what that term means. So, I first of all, I don't know how she came across this information. I don't know how she defines that term. All I
Mm.
know is she has associated something extremely negative to the term, which is not abnormal. It's kind of everywhere. And then to learn that this person who has all of the bad ideas because he believes all the bad things is actually like not stupid because she assumes that those people are dumb and also cares about the climate enough to, go into business with it. And she hasn't like been able to square that circle. And she thinks it's because this person is such a radical contradiction that these two things couldn't possibly exist in the same person at the same time. And that is like, she's not talking about that specifically in this short clip, but it seems like that's where her real struggle is at. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you follow what I
Yes.
mean?
And I think I can bring a little bit of light to that in light of the paper that I just randomly read yesterday. Essentially what's happening is she's worried there's an aspect of morality on some level, probably more of a subconscious level. She's worried there's an aspect of being a moral person that she is unaware of. Does that make sense? Like there's something that her moral choices could be judged based on a framework that she's not aware of. So in order to reconcile that contradiction, she has to sort of belittle, but again, the contradiction remains because he has demonstrated that he has some of her concerns about climate change. Although, there's a whole bunch of elements to conservation that are not in any way contradictory to a conservative position. So, but she has to reconcile the experience that she's had with this man as an intelligent man with concerns that he shares in common with her, and
Mm-hmm.
now this label, which is essentially like when you talk about conservative and liberal now, we're talking about moral camps. So she's being come face to face with the idea there may be an aspect of morality that she is unaware of and could be judged by. So is judged as being morally inferior based on. So she's going through the process of, at least according to the study that, or the essay, maybe it was more, that I read. She's going through the process of trying to reconcile that, and it is interesting because she is attempting to like demote him in her mind in terms of his intelligence in order to reconcile that, I think. And again, she's trying to emotionally distance herself
It's
from him.
it
But it's a self-defense mechanism, basically.
Yeah, it's almost like she's basically saying, how can this person hold this moral framework and be smart and care about the thing that I care about?
Yeah.
They must be There must be something wrong with this person. Like that. Instead of saying, well, maybe these things are not something that like my belief system owns the market on or has a
Mhm.
monopoly on, right? Like I've been saying for years, like the one of the challenges that I think a lot of liberals and leftists have is that they believe that their moral framework is just the good framework. It's just being
Mhm.
the good person that believes the good things all the time, and that people who don't follow that are obviously the people who believe the bad things. And it's a really simplistic way of seeing the world, but the more like you just see that, like it's just very plain everywhere. But what I'm interested in is that this is a woman. So like I wonder if that same kind of moral tribalism, because this is the thing that I want to point out about this video, because it's like 30 seconds. There's not much that you can speak to except obviously what Allison just talked about. But this is a woman who went on social media and recorded herself saying this 30-second message to share with the people who follow her on social media. So what part does that have to play? Like, is this not, I mean, yeah, it's virtue signaling in a way, because you're just, or maybe it's whatever. Virtue signaling is like, look at me, I'm doing the good thing. Maybe there's a version of that which is, look at me, I'm shaming the bad people.
Mm.
But like she's putting it out on social media, and she's doing this, and probably gets a lot of like women supporting her, which is sort of the theme of this, is that women put stuff on the internet, and some of it's dumb. Well, it's dumb stuff, but the issue is that so many other women and a lot of men will totally co-sign on all of it. Like, oh, go girl, that's absolutely right, whatever. And that's the thing that's kind of troubling. So
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's, again, she has had the curtains parted, and she's been presented with the possibility that her moral knowledge isn't complete. I think that's why she's having such a strong emotional response, is that she's having trouble belittling him because she knows he's intelligent. She's probably having trouble, well, she'll go into basically saying that his moral framework is wrong. And then the other one was, I'd have to pull it up, but the last one was basically just emotional distancing, which is what she's doing with the hatred. Like the sense of hatred is, she's creating a barrier between herself and him. But on the other hand, like a strong emotion is not necessarily a bad sign for let's just say certain other factors, desire, shall we say. Not that this individual that she's with really should consider her, but the fact that he's presenting something outside of her can itself be attractive. So her hatred may actually be a attempt to mask something in her, like an actual attraction to the
Oh
unknown,
yeah. Maybe
or
that she probably did have an attraction to this guy, and
Mhm.
then learned this about him after getting to
Oh, he
know him,
probably
and is
still
now,
does.
yeah, she probably still does. It's like the truckers,
Yeah,
so rugged.
so rugged and raw, or whatever else they
Yeah,
call
no, I
it.
think she said they were rugged, the truckers. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, well, the other thing is that she could be putting it. She likely put it out on social media to get a kind of consensus from the people who follow her on social media. Like
Mhm.
like she's looking for other followers, probably mostly women, to tell
To
her,
confirm.
"Yeah, I hate him too," or something like that, right? Just to affirm her prejudice, because that's ultimately what it is. It's like a prejudice. And I
Well,
wonder, is that like a thing that is, I wonder how common that is in women, because
very.
yeah, okay, the tribalism, that kind of like, um I wonder how common that is in women to like do that.
I would say it's very common. There's a lot of consensus thinking, and you can see that even when women protest it. It's like they give the impression that it's how they see themselves has to be a reflection of how other people see them. And it's really bizarre. I remember one particularly egregious example is a man was saying what he wanted in women, a supportive partner who listens and trusts and is submissive and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And explained how, men are still responsible for, well, not still, but they are responsible, actually, in a way that is sort of unique in our era, but they are responsible for keeping our society running and all of this other jazz. And she basically responded with, "So all I am is a cheering squad for you." And I'm like, well, you could consider, this is a thought, and I didn't say this, but I was looking at this and I was thinking it, but you could consider developing your own value proposition outside of what this man says he values. And I don't mean that as like a strong, independent woman, but the point is that she is saying, you are the one who ascribes value to me right off the bat. And it's like, but you're not ascribing the value that I want you to. Well, unfortunately, you don't, at the end of the day, have control over that. But it's like this idea that her value doesn't exist outside of the appraisal and the opinion of others. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they'll do things like they'll just present things in a way that it really looks like something has to be signed off on by the committee. You know what I mean? It's just before it can be real.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. It's basically like, it's essentially feminist academic study work done like on social media, where they just sort of like, reference each other, and they ask each other for affirmation, and they give it to each other, and then they say, look, this is true because all of my my girlfriends agree with me.
Yes, and I'm guessing,
yeah,
I'm guessing the very strong emotional reaction, seeking out emotional validation from her followers or her friends, this is all a response to the threat that this man poses to her sense of moral self. Because he is,
don't let me like him, he's one of them, please help me understand that he's the enemy.
But the reason behind that is, again, the perception or the fear that there is a moral framework that you've missed, in which your actions and your choices and how you present yourself can be judged. You get what I'm saying? And that's apparently one of the most powerful fears and senses of threat, social threat, is the idea that there is a moral framework out there that your actions can be judged, and you just missed it. You just didn't even notice it, and that you are being judged. And the probably the rejection, and I because he's a conservative, he probably doesn't spend a lot of time judging her. Honestly, I mean, some conservatives do. I'm not going to say, but I mean, what does it mean conservative at this point?
Well, I was just going to say, like, I don't know what, like, how she's defining that term.
Yeah, exactly.
But also, like, if let's say he's just like a man who, because I think that conservatism is conflated with just being masculine these days. And I'm not saying that conservatives own that as a positive. I'm saying that a lot of like women associate the masculine with being conservative. Like there's, so like if a guy is just being masculine, and maybe, and what I mean by that is not, like, again, the sort of like feminist stereotype of masculine, like smoking cigars and lifting weights and slapping women on the ass and acting like Don Draper. No, I mean, like, like he is, takes initiative. He probably says, oh, I want to work in climate science because I want to do stuff for the climate without engaging in emotional hysteria about the end of the world, and instead look for practical solutions. So I'm going to go into this field. And so he's doing that. Like, here where I live, it's very libertarian. There's lots of Gadsden flags, and yet everybody cares about the environment. Like they're, but they're not doing it in a let's go and protest kind of way. They're doing it in let's work in the field. Let's do stuff, right? So they're actually doing stuff. And I think that like getting your hands dirty and just getting the job done, like you can look at Mike Rowe when he used to do that show, Dirty Jobs. It was almost all men doing the jobs nobody else wants to do. And they were doing stuff for the environment a lot of times, but they're actually doing stuff. It's not like this kind of shallow, like, look at me, I care, I bought a Tesla and now I'm going to burn it down because I don't like the guy who ran the company. This is actual people doing stuff that's real. And maybe she's associating that because maybe he also has like a bunch of guns, and he, maybe I don't know, like maybe he has beliefs about other things that she associates with this kind of like, conservatism that she obviously is repulsed by. And she's conflicted because it's not all ugly and unappealing, but she's told it's supposed to be by like the in-group that she's trying to like get along well with. Yeah. So she goes on social media and says, look, ladies, I met this guy. Like, we've seen this. This isn't like a new thing, and he's got these good qualities, but it turns out that he's like, a demon from like Dimension X that like owns guns or what, I don't know, like wants to have a family. Like, God knows what that means at this point, right? Like, oh, what do you want to do with you? Well, I want to find a nice girl, settle down, marry her, and start a family. Oh, that sounds awfully conservative. That's where we are now. Like, I think that it's actually at the point where just men existing is conservatism. So that's where it's going now. And I think that's because they've defined it in a gendered way, So, I mean, remember when we used to talk to Kevin Logan? And you remember Kevin Logan was like a he's probably still around, I don't really know, but he was like this, male feminist type. And his thing was essentially he kept calling us right-wing conservatives, right? And at the time, I was not. I mean, I don't even know that I still am. I don't like, because these things are just used to plaster people. But I was like, why are you calling us that? And he was just like, oh, because, and it was basically because you believed in like things like, I don't know, men and women should like not hate each other, right? And because it was like where I was at, or you're against feminism, which, you're not supposed to be. So I think that now that I look back, I kind of get it. Like, essentially, I think there was an association between a kind of like, demonized set of moral beliefs and masculinity. They're just connecting them together. And they have been doing this for a while. So that's why they call Andrew Tate a right-wing influencer, even though he's like, he runs like a porn site, or he used to anyway. Like, there's nothing right-wing about that. But he's a man that doesn't apologize for being a man. So they're like, oh yeah, that's right-wing. So they're doing that, right?
No, yeah. I gotcha. Yeah, no, and I actually sent you the paper. It's called "Holier Than Me: Threatening Social Comparison in the Moral Domain." I don't know if you want to take a look at it.
I'll go get it, and I can put it on the screen if you guys want to look at it.
Sure.
It's a little small in print there, but
yeah, well, suffer. I mean, they can expand it,
Yeah.
Can't do everything for you.
Zoom in there. Holier Than Me: Threatening Social Comparison in the Moral Domain. Huh.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's actually, I would recommend reading it. It's interesting. I mean, it's not, I don't know if it's a study. I think it's more like just setting out some ideas. And so basically what it looked at, or what it set out in terms of ideas, is the difference between moral exemplars that we look at and we say it would be, like, this is aspirational, like, Mahatma Gandhi, Mother Teresa, I suppose Buddha, that kind of stuff. And, Jesus Christ, as aspirational, versus moral individuals who we regard to be a threat. And one of the things that they noted is that if the person is closer to you, so the more similar, the more likely you are to feel like they're a threat. So one of the things that's going on here is the fact that she shares the moral value of environment with this man. So,
and she brings it up, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so if you go to page, it says 59 on that. So it's a few pages down.
Yeah, so it starts at page 53. So
yeah, if you go to page 59, and you'll see a paragraph labeled "moral confusion."
Yep, I'm looking at it.
All right,
do you want me to
read it? Sure. So you don't, guys don't have to listen to me mispronounce words.
Oh, okay, no, I just wasn't sure. Okay, so it reads. Some people are watching. Yeah, some people are watching the vertical, and I can't. If I display it on the vertical, you won't be able to see the text. I might as well just read it. So it says, moral confusion. Another reason why moral others can be irksome is that people can come to question whether their own behavior is morally appropriate. This is more related to opinion social comparison, but with the added threat that being wrong on moral opinions might be worse than any other opinion. Being wrong on moral opinions might be worse than any other opinion. Finding out by polling others that a particular stock is less viable than you think, that a given fashion item has a surprisingly wide appeal, or that a loathed politician might not be as corrupt as you thought, interesting choice of words, might be unsettling in the short run, but it is likely to be less upsetting than if you learn from others that one of your behavioral choices is seen as morally problematic. Being wrong is never pleasant, but suspecting that one is morally wrong is particularly upsetting. And one feature of moral comparison is that moral others can reveal a line of behavior that one did not even ever consider. It's not necessarily just that moral others took the road less traveled. It's that we might not have not have even seen that road when their path bifurcated. Moral others can exemplify a moral response that we didn't even realize existed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what's happening is that he's forcing her to consider the possibility that she doesn't know everything morally.
Right.
And that's a
And
very uncomfortable position for her to be
it
in.
it is. It's actually a very uncomfortable position for most people, which is
Mm,
why, like, the what we have to, I think one thing that we have lost sight of a lot, and this is sort of like I think the cause of so much pain and suffering today, that goes back before you know, the the bug, the beer bug, is people's lack of humility. Which, by the way,
mm,
you mentioned like Buddha and Christ. That was like what one of their greatest, let's say, virtues was their humility, the ability
mhm.
to basically say, "Look, I don't know everything. I could be wrong." And this is very hard, especially in a time of, I don't like to blame social media, but I say especially in a time of social media where you can easily surround
Find
yourself with people who,
echo chambers,
yes,
yeah.
you can easily find echo chambers, where no one will tell you that you're wrong or contradict you. And this woman is looking for that. She's looking for the comfort of an echo chamber to tell her, yes, you should hate him. It's okay. I mean,
Mm,
that's essentially what she's looking for.
yeah, and I would say that, so this moral confusion, the potential that she's missed something morally, and she's been presented with the only reason why she'd have such a strong negative reaction is if she had, I honestly think some sort of desire for this man, social or in terms of her relationship. There's no point putting this much in emotional investment in a guy who's just scenery to you, right?
Hmm.
So he is presenting the possibility that she could not just be morally wrong, but be completely oblivious to a form of morality that is there. And what's interesting to me is you talk about how conservative, of course, has become wrong speak, basically, or wrong thought. It's just a demarcation of everything that's wrong. I mean, even Bernie bros are now conservative somehow. So it's just packing all of the things that people think are wrong. And in many cases, it's a Venn diagram with masculinity, and it's just a circle. And
Yeah,
it's interesting.
I agree, because but masculinity was one of the first things to put into wrong think tank, and that's why Bernie Bros and the Yang Gang, which were a lot of men, were ultimately rejected because they were still men. So like, basically,
Mhm.
if you're a politician, you want to be successful, you got to like appeal to women. If you
Yeah.
happen
Well,
to appeal to men, unless like you're gonna get hate. So
yeah, definitely. Although the last election might suggest that's shifting a bit as men
well, the
start to
men
realize
were
they need to
like,
vote in their own
yeah,
interests
well,
because
yeah,
no one
because
else
I
will.
think, no, I agree. I think that men before that were like thinking that, oh, women tend to go out and vote. I'm sure that they'll vote like in the best interest for everybody because they're going to care about the future of their families and such. And it turned out that
Now
they
it's
were
not.
ready to throw all of that under the bus for the sisterhood. And that's when men said, wait a minute.
Mm.
Like, but yeah, I'm glad that they did. But I don't know. Like, that doesn't. I don't. I think that that could be a one-off thing. That could be a one-off
It could
thing.
be. It
So
could be.
I
Could
think
be
I
something
think
that
that
doesn't
men
change.
are gonna, like, they're gonna have to realize that they're just gonna double down on the anti-male propaganda. I mean, it's already been going on. We've already talked about adolescence and other things like that. So, but yeah, I mean, it's still, there's still a black category,
Mm.
as I've talked about before, which the Maoists would put certain types of people into black categories, and one of them in this day and age is men.
Mm.
So yeah.
Yeah, and what I was trying to get at was, you men are in this black category, and like you were saying, conservatism seems to be synonymous with men, which is synonymous with this black category. And what's interesting to me is when I read that article, or that I guess it's sort of like a
Paper.
yeah, it's just a paper, an
Mm-hmm.
overview plus some theorizing or hypothesizing, and I was thinking, I think that there is if we look at this in terms of men and women, I think there's a desire or a compulsion with women to reject the idea that there's any kind of moral framework outside of themselves. If that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. And so this black category becoming synonymous with
Oh yeah.
masculinity. There are liberals, or like people on the left, who will literally say that we are against masculinity and expressions of masculinity, and that the world will be better off if we get rid of that and replace it all with femininity. And they've
Yeah.
said that.
Oh yeah.
And they've said that the Kuf nation attacking, that was all the development of a more feminine world or something, a world based on more feminine ideals of safety and control. And so the fact that the black category is sort of evolving to be basically masculinity, I think it speaks to that uninitiated, or maybe adolescent or undeveloped desire in women to be the alpha and omega of morality, and to not recognize that there may be a system of morality outside of being feminine, being female, right? It's like they are supposed to be the moral superiors. They're supposed to be the ones who judge others morally based on how their speech, their actions, how well they benefit others, that kind of thing. It's almost like
Mm-hmm.
the angel in the household who stands in judgment of everyone else. And it feels like, again, that this is a situation where women are rejecting the necessity of understanding men's position and point of view.
Mm-hmm.
They're rejecting the validity of men's position and point of view. At least this woman, and I think actually there's a strain of this among conservative women as well. They and again, what does conservative mean? Republican, right? Women, I don't know what to
I
call
mean,
them.
yeah, I mean, like most
But
women are women are
Tommy
feminists, like no matter
Lawrence,
what, where they,
Lawrence
yeah, Tommy,
Southern,
yeah,
yeah, Sydney
they're just
Washington
feminists
degree,
though. They're just feminists from like a few
Hannah
years
Cox.
ago. Yeah,
Yeah,
Hannah
I know.
Cox. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's this desire to reject the idea that anything exists outside of yourself that you have to consider.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that's why the black category has started to encompass masculinity itself with no qualifier. Like,
No.
not far right, not just masculinity.
No,
I mean, we see that with
it is.
adolescents.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna add one other thing too. And I'm trying to remember what it is now. I
Oh,
think I may
one
have
other
lost
thing,
it. Yeah.
actually, before we continue, this idea that you have nothing to learn is astounding to me. Because that's basically what she's saying. She could be learning from this man. She could try to ask him, why does he believe what he does? You know, instead she's fleeing. And I think actually it is an element of threat and cowardice. Like, people want to be certain because they're afraid of the world and living in it. And
Yeah.
I think that honestly, I think that Christian admonition for women to submit to their husband, I really do think that it's more and more shaping up in my mind to simply say, yeah, he has something to say. He has a position that's worthy. It needs to be respected. And it's I don't think it's the way it's been presented. I don't think that commandment or that admonition is the way that it's been presented in a more liberal context, that it's some kind of oppression of women. I think it's simply saying men have something of worth of their own, and you need to respect that. And sometimes you need to realize that they understand things that maybe you don't at quite as natively, shall we say. All right, so
Yeah. So I remember what I was going to say. There's a couple
okay,
things actually. One,
sure, go ahead.
remember the context of this video. This is after the recent election, so she might have a chip on her shoulder against men already as a result of that. The other thing is that I wonder if that referendum, that most recent election, that shutting down of the I don't know, like the women, the woman moment, they were going to have their first female president and all that. I wonder if that didn't make women like this feel insecure about their moral superiority, or like their sort of self-assured moral superiority over men, and that they're now looking for support from, women in the sisterhood to tell them no, because like if you think about it, the other saying is, from wisdom, right, is that like women are like, if men are the head, women are the neck. That's like something that like Greeks would say about their families, Italians, or there's when I had Jonathan Pajot on years ago, and he said that women ask the question. So it's like women were a kind of, historically they were a helpful guide to essentially direct men towards, like whatever the priorities are. Like a woman could tell the man, and of course they were getting that from the wisdom of their fathers and mothers. So like there was something like connecting all of this together. So it's not so much about, submission in the way that we think of it, but it's like a, service, a helpmate kind of a thing. But that meant that women were or at least there's like this feeling that women were in the position to dictate what is right and wrong, like what is morality and immorality to some degree, right? And I think that women have lost their grip on that, and they're feeling insecure about it, and they want to get that back. And and of course, I think it's because their moral compass is completely thrown off from what it probably was from maybe even just their parents or their grandparents' time. And this woman is looking to reassert that. Maybe I'm overanalyzing, but I don't think I am. And the other thing is that the women who are replying to her comments and are probably very supportive, maybe even like gaslighting her, they might not even like her. They might they might just be doing what they themselves also feel compelled to do, which is essentially just serve the sisterhood, right? Support each other unquestioningly. Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Like when you're presented with this, they're all just coming together and saying, "No, masculinity is wrong." Let's just bring it down to brass tacks. They're coming together in the sisterhood and saying, "Nope, this masculinity is wrong. Reject it. There's nothing there. It's all just it's just black category. It's just the speech of Mordor or something, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
Black speech. Is that what it was called?
The Black Speech of Mordor.
Yeah, it's all
Yes.
the black speech of Mordor.
Yeah.
All the black speech of masculinity. Yeah, I think I mean, it is like, and if you go to page 61, you might find that interesting.
All right, let me see. 61.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Defensive strategies to diffuse threatening upward moral comparison.
Yes. Yes. Let's do it.
Okay. In cases where a potentially greater virtue is experienced as a threat to the self, individuals may take one of three main courses of action to diffuse the threat. Alike 2000 describes how most social comparison theories assume that people deal defensively with unfavorable upward comparison by distorting their meaning, derogating the target, or avoiding them. In the moral domain, this triad will take the form of suspicion, denying moral meaning, trivialization, derogating the target on the potency dimension, so basically trivializing them, or resentment, avoiding association with the threatening other. We describe each in turn. Suspicion, denying virtue. One first approach is to deny the virtue altogether and to give little moral credit for the behavior. Research suggests that a typical reaction might be suspicion and skepticism as to the actor's real intentions. Again, that was sort of implied. I see this all the time. So, Ybarra, 2002, reviewed how the social psychological literature consistently suggests that whereas we see negative behavior as reflective of people's true personality, we are quick to ascribe agreeable actions to social demands. This may play a defensive role because morality is such a central and desirable trait in most people's self-concept that they should be especially sensitive to threats. This is similar to other kinds of defensive attributions typically observed in social comparison research in the case of unfavorable upward comparison. Whereas the typical defensive attribution in ability comparison might be to ascribe an unfair advantage to the superior other, in the case of moral comparison, we predict that it takes the form of suspicion, ascribing hypocrisy and ulterior motives instead of recognizing virtue as the true cause of behavior. Intentions are the crux of the argument in moral comparison, and one does not need to ignore the behavior, which may be difficult, as long as one can cast doubts on the purity of the intentions. Thus, I might freely admit that my neighbor spends her weekends helping children with disabilities, but discount her volunteering as self-righteous posturing as resulting from or resulting form pressure from an overbearing church, or as a craving for human contact in an otherwise lonely life, rather than ascribing it to her greater human kindness and decency. Okay? Trivial, you're fighting with the special chat, aren't you?
Yeah, I am fighting with the special chat.
Okay. That's okay.
That.
Just leave them alone. If they're on here telling us that we're wasting our time, then they're definitely wasting theirs. Okay, trivialization, do-gooder derogation. When the virtuous nature of the behavior is too self-evident and can't be easily brushed off, and the direct route is therefore blocked, a second approach is to remove the threat indirectly by putting down moral others on their traits, implying a lack of competence, trivializing their moral gesture, patronizing would-be saints as well-intentioned but naive fools, weak, unintelligent, with poor common sense and little awareness of the realities of the real world. With this infantilizing and emasculating move, potential threats are rendered into deluded idealists. This is apparent in common derogatory monikers like do-gooder and goody two-shoes. It is also reflected in the work on the might over morality hypothesis, showing that individuals who defect in social dilemmas tend to see cooperators as moral but weak, recasting the situation as one that requires willpower rather than ethical clarity. Mainstream reactions to vegetarians typically exhibit this pattern, and the puzzling mild hostility that they report experiencing can best be understood as defensiveness against an irksome moral claim. Surveys of omnivores reveal that they indeed will readily put down vegetarians, though they do so indirectly, seeing them as good people, while diffusing their threat by calling them weak. This derogation seems to be associated with anticipated moral reproach. We found that omnivores indeed think that they are seen as morally inferior by vegetarians, and that the extent of this anticipated moral reproach correlates with the negative valence of words associated with vegetarians. Furthermore, priming the reproach by asking omnivores to estimate it before rating vegetarians leads to vegetarians being rated significantly less intelligent and less moral. Interestingly, this anticipated moral reproach seems largely exaggerated, as shown by the fact that we found a significant gap between the morality ratings that omnivores expected from vegetarians and the actual ratings of omnivores given by vegetarians.
Okay, this is before the scourge of vegans. I'm guessing even
this is that well, it says
it's
2007.
It's 2007.
But I think it's a safe way to make the case, because I've known vegetarians tend to be a bit more high and mighty than normal people. I wouldn't even call them omnivores, but it doesn't matter. Like as an example of the behavior of the pattern, it's works. It's just maybe they did this on purpose so that they wouldn't piss off vegetarians, right? Because I don't think omnivores would be like, oh, how dare you? Like, I don't think that normal people would care.
Yeah, no, it's just basically, you're right. It's just an example, and they're trying to
Yeah.
use an example that's not too politically charged, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so the last one is resentment,
Is
disliking,
resentment, yeah, disliking and distancing. This is the one that you're claiming, this
disliking.
woman. Yeah,
Yeah.
disliking and distancing. When the behavior is clearly moral and it's hard to call into question the fortitude of the moral other, the previous two routes to self protection are unavailable. One last resort may be to distance oneself from the threatening other and to profess little desire to affiliate with him or her. This should be reflected in low rankings on sociometric choices and a low rating on liking scales or other forms of distancing. We may realize that it's difficult. We can decide that we just don't like the person. This can take the form of outright hostility, rejection, or glee at the superior other's fall, Schadenfreude. In our laboratory, we have shown that liking for moral rebels depends on the perceiver's own involvement in the situation. Participants who just saw a Confederate refuse to perform a decision task because of its racist undertones, like that rebel, respected him more and saw him as more moral than a compliant Confederate. However, participants randomly assigned to complete the racist task first actually liked the rebel less than a compliant other. For the latter actor participants, the rebel's stance was an indictment of their own choice, whereas the former observer participants had the luxury of appreciating the moral exemplarity of the rebel's refusal. The fact that this rejection of the rebel involves social comparison was suggested in another study showing that the actor observer difference was strongest for individuals who scored high on Gibbons and Bunk's ability subscale of the social comparison orientation scale. The moral nature of the process was reinforced by the finding that the same difference was greatest for individuals who signaled that morality was important to their self concept in Aquino and Reed's moral internalization subscale. As with do gooders, anticipated moral reproach did play a role, as suggested in yet another study showing the fear of being rejected by the moral rebel mediated the effect of role condition on embracing that rebel. Again, we interpret this effect in line with moral social comparison. When faced with a moral other, participants admired him as long as the moral other did not make them look bad or had the
Mhm.
opportunity to look down upon their morality. But as soon as moral others could cast doubt on their own morality, participants denied moral credit, put down others on competence related dimensions, or simply expressed disliking of the comparison other.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that not only does this indicate something about what we're watching now, she went to dislike, by the way, I'm pretty sure, to distancing. But I think it also indicates something about how difficult it is to put the stuff that we talk about out there, because we're presenting a moral framework that people may think or realize that they have ignored or missed. So right there, men's issues, like I said, it's like a moral framework that it's like the road less traveled, right? And when we put it out there, people are reject it because it presents this idea that there's a moral framework that they just don't they didn't even realize existed. And so they go through all of this process of rejecting it initially because it's such a threat. And yeah, so I thought that that's interesting, both in terms of looking at these women and what they have to say, and also in terms of looking at the difficulties that we've faced over the years and trying to hammer home this message that you can't omit half the human race from your consideration. Like, you can't just pretend men's issues don't exist, or just continue to ignore the problems that men face when men are the ones who keep society running. You have to feed your damn horse, otherwise the horse won't plow. At the very, very basic mechanistic level, if you don't want to look at it in terms of just human compassion. But okay, let's go to the next one.
Yeah. All right. So this is the next video. This woman, let me just put my face up here. This was shared by somebody named Buck Sexton, and it's titled "America's Plummeting Marriage Rate Explained in One Brutally Annoying Rant." So this one is really cringe. So just brace yourselves. But let's listen to it.
Story time on how politics ruined my last relationship. So let me set the scene for you. I was dating this guy. We've been dating for 5 months. And in those 5 months, I was told by my friends, Zoe, he lives in Indiana. He's a fucking Republican. I was like, politics don't matter to me. Boy, was I wrong. And so I was like, it's fine. I don't care. I'm going to get to know him first. We'll decide later. So then we kind of start talking about it. I'm a very liberal woman. So I am obviously like very much everyone knows that I'm a liberal woman. My brother's gay, all my friends are gay also.
Didn't she just say politics don't matter to me? Just saying that it's kind of weird already. It's kind of weird, but let's keep going.
Like abortion rights, female rights, but anyways, so
oh god. Female rights, just female rights, guys. Don't you? That's why I believe in them. See, this is what I'm talking about, the framework, right? I'm a liberal woman. What does that mean? Well, let's set aside what the word liberal itself means. It doesn't matter. What she's really saying is, I'm a good, decent human being because I'm a woman. So that's it. That's the argument, okay?
I would like always ask him. I'd be like, "What? Like, what's your politics? Like, where do you lean?" And he was just like, "Well, like socially, I'm a liberal, but economically, I'm a Republican." Fuck that. Okay. Also, he was a 28-year-old man. That's the first red flag, because if there's a 28-year-old,
I think her voice is crushing a gland somewhere in my brain.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
She's she's a bit unbearable. Okay.
And he's single.
How
There's
did
a fucking
she
reason
even
that he's
get
single.
to five?
But anyways,
5 months in.
Exactly. She dated the guy for 5 months before
I'm guessing
there was an issue. Like I'm
guessing she was hot. He's had sex with her a couple times, and he was considering continuing to have sex with her, but then she started to become unbearable.
Well, let's do the math.
The smash to effort ratio got too high.
5 months. Okay, this is this post is late March. 5 months. So 5 months ago was what month? October of 2024. Did anything happen between October of 2024 and when they broke up that she might have been impacted by? Just saying. Okay.
So then I'm like, well, like, what makes you, economically Republican? Because, like, I could give you a whole bunch of fucking facts right now that prove that you shouldn't be. And he was like,
can I just, can I get in here for a sec? And also I just want to break from her voice. And it's like getting choppy for some reason. So I don't know what's going on there. Yeah. I mean, I don't know why men would think they're losing out if women like this, like these women are not actually they're not useful I don't want to say useful. They're not capable of a relationship, period. This is a level of control that sounds like it's abusive, right? Or what? Well, sorry, I've watched this already, so I've seen it. Let me not prejudge it, but I'm just saying he's lost nothing, right?
Absolutely not. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think guys need to realize that you cannot have relationships with these women. There's no relationship possible with a person like this. So he's gotten whatever value he could out of her, and now he's moved on. Bravo. Okay. I got to do my squish spawn. All right, continue.
Oh, that's fine. Okay.
Info was from his friends. And I was like, you get all your information from your fucking redneck friends. Obviously, you can't trust them. You need to do the research yourself. And if you do the research, I told him, I was like, I'll support you based on your decision if you actually research it yourself. Like, I won't care if you're a Republican. But anyways, and so he was like, Zoe, I have much better things to do than research politics. Like, I have way more important things to do. Okay, saying that to me is absolutely fucking insane, but go off, King.
Yeah, I know she's super annoying, but like, remember in the beginning, she says politics don't matter to me. That's what she said, okay? And now she called his redneck. She called his friends redneck friends that are really stupid. She claimed that he should have been making time, I guess, to realize how important her politics are, because that's all that this is really about. And the truth is, this isn't really about politics at all. So like she's using that as her framework, But the truth is, that's not really what this conversation is. This conversation is about a woman trying to morally dominate a man and using social media to do it. And she is essentially trying to, she's not obviously naming names or spilling all kinds of tea, but she is essentially like living in her social media space to affirm and validate whatever, like her choice to break off the relationship. And
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, he dodged a bullet. I think he did. But the problem is, I'm with Buck Sexton on this initial post. Okay, America's plummeting marriage rate explained in one brutally annoying rant. I don't know what the solution is, but we got to do something about women on social media. I don't know what the solution is, but something has to be done. I don't know what, but they go on there and they start talking to other women, and they it's like they form like their little knitting circles, but they're like massive scale online with God knows who, could be a bot, could be Chinese spies, could be Mossad, whatever, and those people are feeding them ideas, predatory lesbians, and that they're all over the internet. And then they go and they destroy their actual lives with it. Like they destroy their relationships and everything. And the longer they're on there, the more they distrust, fear, and loathe men, because that's like the primary messaging. And very few people are doing anything rational to address it. I mean, because all they have is, well, men, it's just, life's tough, you're gonna have to man up. And I mean, I hear it all the time, and everybody does it. It's not like a thing that comes from any specific camp. It's like the default setting. Men, you just have to man up and deal with it. They're not going to, and we're just going to collapse, because you're not going to solve the problem telling men to do that, because there's no incentive. There's no incentive.
Well, there's no ability.
Yeah.
How are men supposed to get in there? And like, are they supposed to kick the door down and saying, you're doing too much femininity in here?
Yeah.
Shut up. Get back to the sandwich mines.
Go back to the kitchen.
In order for men to actually do that, they'd have to have the power to do that. So what group is giving them the power to do that? So ultimately, if it's going to happen, it's going to be something that women choose to do on their own. But the other thing is that maybe this is a gigantic selection event, because these women are going to not breed. I mean, I'm also probably not going to breed. So there you go. But these women are not breeding, and they're not breeding on a huge scale. But I mean, having said that, I mean, in our community in the last 5 years, we've had, let's see, 6 babies. And we're not a big community.
Yeah, some people are getting it done.
Yeah, some people. But the other thing is that we're not like a hugely religious community either.
No, right? I'm not even saying that that's a necessity. I'm saying I don't think it should be necessary. Just stop being shit to each other, and I think it'll work out. And the problem is that we're only demanding that one half of the population not be shit, while we encourage the other half to be shit, and that they're entitled to it.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, anyway, let's finish this up.
I got a super chat from Albatross. He gave us $5. Thank you, Albatross. And he says, these hyper political left girls keep falling into relationships with conservative guys like a moth to a flame. It'd be funny if it weren't so annoying. Well, yeah, it's like they're experiencing cognitive dissonance in real time. Like, they're attracted to men who are masculine. That's kind of what it really is. And then they learn that masculinity comes with things that they associate with their opposing worldview, and that they can't comprehend those things. And so, because why were you dating this guy for 5 months if you weren't attracted to him for some reason? And it probably just wasn't like his looks alone. There was probably qualities that he had that you liked. Like, what about those videos? There are videos of a girl, of a woman who's on Twitter or TikTok or whatever, and she's like, I went on a date with a right-wing guy or whatever, a man. Well, she said a manly man, and he did all of the masculine things, and she was totally head over heels, but she didn't like his politics, and for whatever reason. And it's kind of like, yeah, because you're you're wrestling with this thing that I'm afraid that one of these things is downstream from the other, right? And they want to have their cake and eat it too. So like they don't want the male feminist guys. They don't. Like so,
No,
unless
well, I mean, well, if they did, then they would be actually having sex with all the incels because most of them are very liberal.
A lot of them are very liberal. Yes, exactly.
They wouldn't be complaining about the conservatives that they're dating, or apparently attracted to some level, to have that level of an emotional response to finding out he's conservative. They're on the internet complaining about these guys that they find desirable turning out to be conservative. And you're right, Brian, when conservative basically has become a catch-all for masculinity, of course they're going to be attracted to that, but they don't have the tools to actually live with it or extend themselves to understand it.
Right. So we can just use the truckers protest as an example. We have no idea what the politics of the truckers are.
No.
Right. You could say that like on average they might lean whatever, but we do know that they're almost all men. Mm-hmm. And so they were like, because they probably had families to provide for, or they were just concerned about like all of the issues that the Canadian government was, bringing them, and that they were shouldering this burden, and they were like, we're going to protest. And they all went there and did so. And the women were, in fact, like they saw them as like this right-wing thing. It was just dudes. Like nobody even asked that maybe they liked their country. Maybe they had Canadian flags. I mean, patriotism, I guess, is also masculine. I mean, I don't know. But this is what I'm saying. Like it's when you get like stuck on the politics of things, you're looking at it it's too narrow a view. You have to look at it, I think, in the gender expression. And that's where you get the bigger picture. So like, because if you have allowed the term conservative to be put in a black category, then it's going to be harder for you to see that what's really being attacked is masculinity. And masculinity should be left alone, like to do what it do, right? And it's different. It comes out in different ways for different people. It's not all like, guys that drive trucks and like are into hot rods and drive Bigfoot and lift weights and wrestle, whatever. We all know that because we're not about the stereotypes. But there are things that men do that are unique to men, or at least like they tend to do more of, that men should be allowed to do. And that is what I think women are attracted to, whether they like it or not, and but this is why they're experiencing cognitive dissonance. That's what these videos are all doing in a way. They're like seeing like, like there's the thing I'm told that I'm supposed to hate, and then there's a thing that I like, and these things have a lot of overlap, but they can't because I'm supposed to hate them, because otherwise my girlfriends are going to hate me, I guess. There's a peer pressure or something.
Well, if my and I'm still trying to figure out if it finds something that corroborates it, but if my editor is correct and people are attracted to those who are they feel like they're morally higher on than themselves, or morally more developed than themselves, then these women would have an attraction to what they perceive to be as a man. On some level, they have an attraction to a man who has a moral framework that they may not have be accessible to them, if that makes sense. Because that is the possibility of somebody who is above you morally, or has some moral framework that you don't understand. You see what I'm saying? There's the possibility there of a greater moral development. So there's that attraction, but at the same time, as I think that's conflicting with their identification with being the ones who morally reject. So it's like they cannot actually accept their desires. They always have to reject them because it's this conflict between themselves, how they see themselves morally, and being the ones who stand in judgment. And then that leaves these women with nobody to desire except people that they can't live with. That's interesting. All right. Because they don't desire. I remember a while back, there was a feminist who talked about how unattractive feminist men are. And she's just really honest. It's like, how do I be a feminist and find feminist men so repulsive? And I think it's because there's no perception of that they offer anything. There's no development. There's no sense that they've developed morally above a woman. There can't be. There literally can't be, or at least developed in a different framework. Like I don't even know if we should say above or below, but just something different, like something separate, something that is unique to men, like a moral framework that's unique to men, that doesn't exist with feminist men at all. And I think that might be one component why feminist women find them appallingly unattractive. Like I said, these women are here complaining about the fact that men who they find on some level morally compelling or morally desirable are not submitting to them morally. Why aren't they going to where the male feminists are, which is the incels in many cases, and going and fishing in those waters? That's the real question here.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, let's play some more.
I also just didn't care at that point. And so I kind of put it on the back burner. I was like, I can't fucking take this right now. Well, then we get into a little spat a couple days before election day, and we almost broke up. And so I was like, nah, it's fine, I'll give him one more chance, blah 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 blah. Well, then election day rolls around, and well, actually before this, he was not registered to vote. He had never voted before, and he told me that he wanted to vote in this election. And I was like, okay, cool, do the research, but that's a whole other thing. And so the voter registration deadline was approaching. I could tell he was going to vote against me, let's just say it like that. And so I was like, he is not going to make an educated decision on who he votes for. So guess what? I'm not going to remind him of this voter.
So we're together, but we obviously don't share, for whatever reason. Our belief systems are different. And he's voting against you. Like, even though he wasn't, like, he hadn't voted. I think he ended up voting independent. I don't know if I want to subject you guys to the rest of this, because this woman's voice is really annoying. And the way that she talks, because she thinks she's doing like a stand-up routine, which is almost like really unserious, if you know what I mean. Like, it's like, oh, this is serious, but I'm doing a bit, so it almost feels like it's not. Like, it's there's something really inauthentic about it, you know. And obviously, yes, if he disagrees with me, he's obviously not educated. He doesn't know what he's doing. So he's like this is the thing, the framing of it, you know, is that he's obviously stupid and doesn't know what he's doing. So anyway, yeah. Let's play some more, I guess.
Registration deadline. So then it passed. He didn't register to vote. So there we go. It was saved. He wasn't going to vote. I wouldn't have to deal with it then. But then we got into that little spat, and I was like, let me try one more time. Let me see if he's learned anything from me. And I asked him point blank on election day, I'm like,
where did she get, like, where do you get that? Like, do you see how, like, is this arrogance? Like, this idea, like, what, let's see if he learned anything from me. Like, what? I mean, yeah, you're right. He totally dodged a bullet. You're absolutely right about that. But why do women like this exist?
Quit, I think, would be the way.
I wouldn't even do that. That comes with way too many
absolutely
risks.
Not. Like, there's too many freaking risks to even touch this. But but I would say that he got at least some minor amount of entertainment out of her, and then ghosted her after this crap, or hopefully he did. But she's essentially putting herself in position of rejecting him. I think at the point where he's just like, why am I having to tell you about my voting? That he probably rejected her fundamentally. But she is trying to reframe this in terms of her rejecting him. And that's because it's reestablishing her identity as the one who morally rejects, basically.
Yes. Okay. It's like sour grapes.
So who would you have voted for if you would have voted in this election? He was like, I would have voted independent. And I was like, do you know that how harmful and basically wasteful that is? And also, like, check your privilege by saying you're going to vote independently. And he was like, wow.
What?
I cannot
check your privilege because he's going to use his vote?
Yeah. Check your privilege
Check your
Only
privilege, man.
a
You're
privileged
voting.
male would like make a decision to vote independently and not in my interests. Yes. I have a feeling that he probably pussied out and said I would have voted independent because he didn't want to piss her off. And still pissed her off. Still. And if he would have look, there was no winning, okay? If he would have said I'm voting for Trump, that would have pissed her off, obviously. If he would have said I'm voting independent, that would have pissed her off because he'd be throwing his vote away. And that would have pissed her off. If he would have said, I would have voted for Kamala, I was a white dude for Kamala, white dudes for Harris, she would have got pissed because he didn't register. So like there was no winning. There was no winning. And that's the thing too, is that like ultimately this is not about that at all. But like what it's about is this woman wanting to essentially establish moral dominance over her partner and say that I know what is best for you. I am smarter than you are. I'm better educated. I'm on social media all the time. I get my news from TikTok. You get it from your redneck friends. And that makes me a better person. I watch The View, whatever it is, right? But it's all ultimately, it doesn't matter what it is because they would have just pulled from some other source to establish moral dominance. It's that this is, and she's doing this to herself. Like this is all like self-inflicted pain that she's experiencing. All of it. Like the man got, I don't know what, well, I forgot how this ends, but I'll play the rest of the video here.
You think my vote would have been a waste? Ah! Shut the fuck up, because it is a waste. Look at fucking Philadelphia. All those independent voters could have put us over the edge and could have helped Kamala win. That's another story. And so I was like trying to tell him, I was like, listen, that's harmful. You have to make a decision because the way that our voting works, like the two-party system, is a fucking joke. You have to pick a side. The independent party never has a chance. So you have to pick a side. And we got into a huge argument about it. And I was like, you know what? Fuck this. This is my last straw. Again, I'm a very liberal woman. I have to date someone that is on the same page as me because I can't disagree with someone on something that is so important to me for the rest of my life. I fully respect Republicans. I understand that you want to vote that way, but for me, I don't want to marry you and I don't want to date you. So we ended it.
Lady, you're not capable of a relationship. We ended it. That means he ended it.
Yes.
He ended it.
It's just like when somebody says, "Oh, you know, this person is what was it with the Joy Reid, where MSNBC she got fired, and no one said she got fired. They were just like, Joy Reid is no longer with MSNBC, and it was abrupt, and everybody was crying about it. She got fired. That's what happened because her show was the worst, and you know, and so yeah, this is the same. Like we ended it just means he was ended like, you know what? Yeah, this isn't working for me. I can't have you over here like morally dominating me all the time. And I'm glad he did. Because there was obviously a problem.
Yeah, no, this is not like she's soft pedaling it. We ended it. If she had ended it, she would have said, I ended it. So he ended it. He was done with this shit. And good for him. Again, this woman says, I won't marry or be in a relationship. She's not capable of either. So she's basically saying, well, I'm not going to, I don't know. I'm not going to give men who are Republican something I don't even have in the first place. Yeah, you are not capable of being in a relationship or being married. Right? Your behavior is appalling. And if you were married, you would be abusing that person. You are a control freak. Right? You are controlling. You are engaging in abusive, coercive control right here with this man. And he ended it with you. Good on him. He did. In fact, I don't even think ending it is quite the thing. He decided to no longer hit and quit. He's no longer, this woman is now, her behavior is sufficient that he isn't even interested in having sex with her. I'm guessing that what they were is they were hooking up casually. And she considered it a relationship. He probably thought of it as just hooking up casually. And then she just became such a headache in terms of her politics that he's just like, yeah, you're out of my Rolodex.
Yeah, they're probably just ultimately they're just moral demands. They're not even politics. Like she's just making moral.
It's just tribalism.
Yeah.
Like, what does it even mean anymore?
Do what I say. That's what I'm saying. Like it's a woman saying, do what I say, live the way I say. Albatross sent us a super chow. Thank you. And it was for $50. So that's a good one. Thank you, Albatross. Really appreciate that.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
I should give you a sound for that one.
Wow.
And he says, I think a lot of left-leaning political women get in relationships with men to engineer and educate them into being good little soldiers. Well, we can look at this another way. I think that women like this, okay, they will get into a relationship with a man, and then there will be initial things that they like about these men, like whatever it is, right? Maybe their personality, maybe how outgoing they are, maybe their confidence, whatever it is. But then, like, after they're together for a little while, women start to see some flaws in the men or some things that they deem to be flaws, which may actually like be part of the whole package. You know, like maybe, you know, some of the traits they like are byproduct of some of the traits that they don't like. But what they do is they try to like change them. And they always do this. You guys know this. It's an old meme. A woman tries to change a man's behavior to make him into like an ideal man, whatever that is. So I don't know, but like they change them over time. And what happens is if the men go along with it, they start to lose their own identity while trying to move towards what this woman wants. And then they become a shell of their former self because they no longer have the things that gave them like that lust for life that maybe she was drawn to in the first place. And then she loses interest in him after that. So like I knew a guy, a very good friend of mine. He was very intelligent, creative, you know, fun to be around. And he met a girl and they started dating and I got to know them both together and then they got married. But like she immediately started changing him. She was like, you know, I love you, but you gotta stop smoking. And he's like, okay, I'll stop smoking. Right. So he stopped smoking. Probably not a bad thing. Like some of the stuff is reasonable, you know, but like over time, it was like, you got to spend less time with your friends. You got to start doing this. You got to do, you know, I need to work more, make more money. And he did everything she asked to the point where there was nothing left of this guy. I barely ever saw him. And then she divorced him because he wasn't the same guy that she fell in love with. So like this woman does that. Like this is what they do. So you could, I don't disagree with Albatross's Super Chow in terms of how that expresses itself in the political realm, but it is something that women just do. Like they find a man and they are like, he's got all of these, you know, all of these traits that I really like about him, but there are some things I'm not a big fan of. I think I'll change those things. I can fix him is what they usually say, right? And then they slowly over time fix him. And then when they do, they don't realize that if that man is not as happy as he was or not the same person, it's because of her nudging. So in a way, first of all, I think that men and women have to learn to live with the negative quirks of their partner, assuming that they're not like deal breaking, which if they are, you probably shouldn't be with them to begin with. But they also have to understand like and learn some tolerance of those traits, you know? Like my wife, Lindsay, I love her to death, but she has some negative traits. Like she has this thing, I don't know why, she will not put like the screw top lids on like, you know, jars. She never closes them. She just puts it on top, or she leaves like half drank glasses of water all over the apartment, right? Like in Signs, like that little girl from Signs. And it drives me up the wall because I'm the kind of person that picks up after myself, right? But you know, it's like, am I gonna like blow a gasket? No, I just sort of get on with it because I know that there's stuff that I do that probably gets under her skin too. But to some degree, we have to understand that, like, yeah, we have our quirks. You know, like I like to stay up late. She goes to sleep early. You know, so what do? Well, I guess I go to sleep a little bit earlier than usual, and she goes to bed a little bit later than usual. And that's
Yeah.
kind of like how it goes. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, but that's basic like relationship management. I just wanted to say one
Should
thing,
be.
Brian. Could you move it so that you're a little bit more centered? Or
I can just move my camera.
yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Because that's one of my
I was drifting this way.
Yeah, you're drifting a little bit towards the idol or the icon. Yeah, no, this is yeah, she is not for relationships. I don't even think she's for the straights.
She wants to control.
There has to be a third option.
Too much. And that's the thing, like because the truth of it is that this woman was into this man in the beginning. Like they were together 5 months. Maybe she didn't know that she was actually a booty call, maybe. But even still, she was fine with him in the beginning. That means that there were traits that he had that she liked enough to date him or be intimate with him or whatever. But then when you become like human beings, we get accustomed to something and then we take it for granted. It's very easily we can just take it for granted and then start demanding more and more perfection.
Mhm.
Like that dopamine hit just isn't hitting like it used to, and now you're like finding problems, right? So I think that the reason, I guess the main thing that I think is the issue here is that this is something that everyone has to learn. So I don't think that she's an extreme case. I don't think that she's an exceptional case. I think that this is kind of bog standard, especially if you are she's not a ugly woman. She's probably got some filters going on. I wouldn't be surprised, but she probably is not unaccustomed to male attention. Therefore, that's going to like build a kind of let's say a resistance to
wanting to change.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why should I? Men like me anyways, right? So, and also an expectation that other men do change. So, like, I don't think that's unusual. I think that it's the simp economy is a part of that problem. Like the men who are just like, I'll take you for however you are. I think that the changing of the way that we do dating and courtship now, where it's all done, online and stuff. I think that sort of like obscures people's perspective, especially if you're a woman that gets a lot of attention. So because you're going to be like, well, I can pick from a million guys because I get like hundreds of DMs or whatever. And that changes your perception as well. Then you start expecting like, well, if I have a hypergamy, cranked up to 11, they're like, well, you know what happened recently? As an aside, I'm sorry for blathering on, but Sydney Sweeney, who's an actress, right? Very, very popular because she's hot and doesn't really care. She's like one of these, like attractive actresses that sort of like owns it, like she's like fine, men love me or whatever. She was in a committed relationship with some guy. I think they were engaged and she like broke it off. And everyone's sharing it like, oh, she's single now and available. And I'm like, that's a massive red flag, guys. Like a woman that became a star overnight and suddenly got a lot of attention and most of it had to do with her sex appeal. Suddenly she decides that this man that she was definitely like saying that she was going to marry and be with forever, she broke it off with him. And now like the media is all saying, look, Sydney Sweeney is available. That's a problem because I think that she got like that nudge of like, oh shit, I can be single and get lots of attention and potentially more roles, more money, whatever. So I think that could be an issue. Sorry, I'm just saying and obviously most men that would be like, oh, that means I have a chance. No, guys, come on. let's not. But anyway. So,
all right.
So they edited it. Okay. Next one. All right. This is a little bit different. This one is more about let's say emotional labor stuff, but still another viral video. Have you seen this one?
It's 5 minutes long, Brian.
We don't have to watch the whole thing. We can just watch a little bit of it, or we can save it for another show because it's like it's like a separate topic in a way.
Yeah, it does seem like a separate topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Like special chat's definitely been interesting today.
Yeah. Yeah, we can save this for another one. This is Candace Horvax, and she basically is an influencer who apparently is considering divorcing her husband. And The reason why will blow you away.
Mm.
So
yeah, definitely. Like this is I'm.
what?
You know what? Maybe we should just go over it quickly because I don't know. It's not big enough to make an entire show from, but it is something critical, and I think it dovetails into what you were saying about your relationship with Lindsay, and the fact that there's always something that's annoying. But I mean, honestly, okay. Essentially, what she says, and it's a 5-minute video. We won't go into it. She basically just says that she has to ask her husband. She had to ask her husband to take out the trash. Apparently, he was tired after coming home from work, and something else that I don't remember. Do you remember what she?
Yeah, it was like cook the meals, or when he does cook the meals, it's like, well, I'll play a little bit of it. We
Okay.
can just listen to it real quick. But I did get a Rumble rant from Occupant 42 for $10. Thank you, Occupant. And he says, a woman marries a man thinking he will change. A man marries a woman thinking she never will. Oh, that's deep. Okay, so let's listen to some of this. I'll play it.
I've been with my husband for almost 20 years, but about 3 years ago, I was strongly considering divorce, and I want to talk to you about why. So I'm going to tell you the story of the day where I thought to myself, maybe I don't want to do this anymore. My husband and I had 4 kids. We both worked full time. We had been together for 16 years at this point. We've been together since high school. And on paper, I have an amazing husband. He is incredibly supportive. He's kind. He's loyal. He's a great dad. He's very hands-on. He's an active participant. He's always present. Like on paper, what else could I ask for?
Why is she saying on paper? That's literally what he's doing in real life. Like he's literally doing this. And she's like, on paper. That's like saying in theory. That's not in theory. That's actual, like he's actually doing that. Okay, but anyway.
But in reality, my experience is very similar to the experience of other women. I had this amazing husband who on paper was great, but I was incredibly frustrated and burnt out from our marriage and from motherhood. Because what happens to so many of us is that we marry these amazing men and we have amazing relationships and then we have kids. And when we have kids, women tend to carry a disproportionate amount of the work in the home, the work of raising kids,
Disproportionate
and the
to
mental
what?
load. And that is
Oh, the mental load. The mental load, Allison, don't you know?
Disproportionate to what? Shut up. The US GSS has consistently found men do more work overall, 4 hours more work a week. So you have nothing to complain about, at least statistically, on paper. On paper, you have nothing to complain about, right?
Well,
And
in
also
practice.
compare. I'm just using her own ridiculous phrase.
Yeah.
But in comparison to what? You had
Do you
kids. That
do you know
means
what
more work.
do you know what her job is? Do you know what her job is, Allison?
House.
No. You don't know? I'll save it because that's the best part. I'll save it for later, but that's the best part, and also his job. So, but let's keep going.
exactly what happened to us. About 3 months after my 4th baby was born, I remember looking at my husband and saying, I need more. I need you to do more. I am exhausted. I am in charge of everyone and everything in this house. Every night when we cook dinner, you ask me what to make. Every day when you drop off the kids at daycare.
Yeah, I know. He spoiled it. I see that.
Okay, let's keep going.
All right,
I'll
we're gonna
pretend
play
I
the
didn't
rest.
see it.
Yeah.
You ask me what they need in their backpacks. I am the project manager of this home and I need you to do more. And he looked at me and he said, okay, just tell me what to do, right? Every woman has heard this. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I said, okay, something that would make my life easier is if in the mornings when I came downstairs with the 4 kids, because I do mornings by myself, the dishwasher was emptied, the dishes were put away, and the trash was taken out. That would make my life so much easier because when I've got the 4 kids running around and the baby crying, I can't be looking for their favorite water bottle in the dishwasher. I just need to know it's clean. And he said, yeah, of course. What? Yeah, I'll do that. That's no problem. And so, of course, he does it. But then I have to remind him, and then he forgets, and then I have to remind him again. And there was this one morning where I woke up.
Oh no, you have to remind
I went
him.
to put something in the trash, and it was overflowing. And I went to get my son's water bottle, and it was in the dishwasher with all the other clean dishes. And I felt so disrespected and unseen and unvalued at that point in time. And I remember texting my husband being like, what happened? Like, why didn't you do this? And he said, sorry, I was running late for work. And I remember thinking, oh my God, he doesn't see me. because what he's done has now made me late for work. And he doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about the impact on me. And he doesn't see how every single thing in our home happens because I ask him to do it, or because I do it myself, or because I planned and organized it. The diaper bag is full because I filled it, right? I put the wipes in there. And I felt so frustrated. And I remember thinking,
I'm
Okay, all right, I'm
so
gonna pause
fucking
it.
pissed right now.
Yeah, I know this is real rage inducing. So I don't think we need to listen to more of this. Let me tell you what she does. Okay. She has a channel on TikTok called, let me see, and this is why I think Allison should get on TikTok and make video responses. Um, where she literally talks about emotional labor and unpaid labor for two women on TikTok. That's her job. She's an influencer that talks about the mental load, marriage and motherhood, childcare. That's her job. She's an influencer. Her job is complaining about her life to other women and making them upset with their husbands, I guess, in their own life. And what does her husband do? He works on power lines. He works. He's a lineman. He works up on the power lines all day. And she is literally like a woman at home with kids doing like online influence. His job allows her to do that. And she calls
His
it
job
full-time work. Yeah.
allows a lot of people to do their job. His job is critical and essential, and her job is to make his life more miserable. This is just encapsulates modern society. This worthless human being is standing in judgment of somebody who, if he's a lineman, he puts his life in danger every day to make sure people have things that keep them alive. And this creature makes his life worse. And then she has the audacity. He's probably paying for the house, or maybe she is, and through her influencing work. And she has the audacity to complain about that she has to manage the household. Like, that was your job. Of course you have to manage it. It's your job. And incidentally, your job is also to make sure he's able to get to his job. Like, so this is the reward for men. And I just can't believe she's putting this in public. On paper? Like, what? This is abuse. This is abuse. This woman is abusing her husband in public, on paper, and in reality. Like, like, did he sign off on being talked about in this way in public? I don't know what to say. This is the hoof prints of women who are addicted to social rejection, to rejecting others, to rejecting their men publicly, to public humiliation of their partners. She was late for work and didn't take out the trash. Now I'm considering divorcing him.
Late for work equals getting on her phone and making TikTok videos.
Yeah, I hope he does divorce her.
That's what she meant by he has to drive out to God knows where and climb up on a pole and work on wiring.
Yes.
And yeah, so oh God.
Yeah, it's just
yeah. So anyway, this is the product of the sheer amount of luxury, security, and affluence that we have essentially provided for women. This is what the result of that looks like. If we like fall economically into a stone age, it might be a blessing in disguise. It might be. Because then maybe women will be like, holy shit, I have taken everything for granted. Like everything that men have brought us, I have taken for granted.
He doesn't just bring her electricity. He brings the entire community electricity. And his function is to keep the world running. Her function is to bitch at him for not doing more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know,
I can't even look at her anymore. Okay, this is
I
the.
know.
All right, I'm just done. I don't even want to look at.
You should see the comments in here are very supportive too. This is the thing that's crazy. All these women are like, she's right. Men are not like it's crazy. Like, this is called emotional labor, and we are sick and tired. Partially why I left my second ex-husband. I'm tired to think for the both of us.
So because they have a husband, do you know what this emotional labor crap is? It's a husband submitting to her and doing what she says. Right?
Yeah.
The husband doesn't just pre-figure out and do it without. Why do I even have to even notice my husband or talk to him? He should just do what I want by basically reading my mind. What an astounding level of entitlement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And yes, you're right. It's hugely gets lots of attention from women. This is the attitude. This is a much more prevalent attitude among women than mine. That's for sure. Even Hannah Cox, who's supposedly more right-leaning, is caping.
Oh no, she totally caped for this woman. She didn't even like think about what the husband does for a living. That was the thing. Like, somebody had to look into this guy's history to find out what his job was. No one who agreed with this even knew, because it didn't even occur to them that his job might be hard or important. Like, influencing, not important, ladies. Like, really, like, if we when AI comes, I hope the influencers are the first ones that are affected by it. I want a robot telling us like how to like cook meals or whatever, pack lunches for kids or whatever it is influencers do, you know.
And he's a good one, right? He's like he's supposedly one of the best.
On paper.
Yeah, Teal Deer says she wants her husband to be the help, totally invisible furniture that just does everything, only acknowledged when she chooses. And of course, wow, that's a really nice house your husband probably bought for you, being a lineman.
Mm-hmm.
What an incredible privilege. And apparently according to another comment, she also has a nanny and a housekeeper.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, she's got a nanny. So she's not even really doing the stuff that she's claiming that she does. And again, her job is essentially convincing other women to be dissatisfied in their marriages. Even though she could be lying about all of her frustrations because it gets her more views. You know, like where if you're in like a group and you want to like start people talking, complain about something, and then invite other people to complain, and they'll all jump in and complain.
You know what we should do? I was just thinking about this. I don't want to see this woman anymore. As far as I'm concerned, she's genetic trash. You know what we should do? We should make it so that people can call in on the landline here, and then maybe I can hit a button and they can speak. And then we could have the special chat call in.
Sure. There are definitely some ways to do that.
Yeah.
I looked into it a little bit in the past, so
there's
a couple of different methods for setting up taking calls that could work. I think that you can use the internet to do it too, but yeah.
Well, anyway. But I do have an actual landline here, so that might be worth looking into. But anyway, I can't stand like.
All right, honestly, well we can wrap it up here if you want,
because this woman is actually in a relationship,
marriage, 4 kids.
She's in a marriage, and she's publicly humiliating and berating her husband, and everybody is cheering her on, and she's doing so for things that are trivial, like. What is the justification for this? How is this justified in anyone's mind?
I don't know.
So this is the best case scenario for men in this society, eh? Okay.
Wow.
All right.
That doesn't say much. Yeah.
No, it doesn't. Okay. I'm gonna All right. If you want to send a message at any time after the show is over, feedthebadger.com/justthetip. You can send it there and we'll read it at the next reasonable, available video, like whenever is the next actually I want to address something in a special chat. KG said voting against one's interests, or sorry, he says these two 50-year-olds don't understand why someone would not want to hang out with you if you vote against their interests. What interests? Okay, first of all, so basically now what we have is that the Republican position sort of aligns with men's interests and the left position aligns with women's interests. We're going to have a very short future.
I mean, if you guys have different belief systems, you shouldn't be together. And voting is like a symptom of that. So, you know, like, how could you, like, why would you be with someone that you are so, like, if you're so opposite on so many issues, then you shouldn't be with them unless it's purely sexual, in which case that's really not like much of a foundation. So
y'all just mad because you don't get any. Well, we're both married, so
okay. Yeah. Whatever, man. It's just kind of like sad.
Yeah,
sad special chat. You guys are just sad.
We need a sad trombone. All right. You're no longer interesting, KG. Sorry. All right. So feedthebadger.com/justthetip and send us a tip and a message and we will get back to you at the next. I mean, anything of interest in this you want to comment on, you want to say something baffling, you want to send us money and insult us, we'll take that too. Feedthebadger.com/justthetip. All right. Back to you, Brian.
Okay, well, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed in the show today, and please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of Maintaining Frame, and we will talk to you guys in the next video.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.